Okay,
There we go.
and recording on mine. All right, everybody. So, welcome back to Starkey Farmstead. My name is Samantha, and I'm going to have this conversation with you. I have invited my dear friend from Hawaii for all of us to discuss what is going on Maui, folks. So Michelle and I both fought so hard for truth to come out post fire. Um, this was not a wildfire. I can't go much further than that. They'll strike us and remove our platforms. But just know Michelle has a book. She's going to give you that information. You want this book. If you really want to know what's going on with the fire, who was involved, all of it, please purchase the book. If you've also not heard, I was totally demonetized. So you'll see it in comments. If you want to, great. If you don't, welcome to the show either way. So, Michelle, tell us everything about the book, and then let's get down to what Pelletier, who he is, where he
Mm.
came from, and what is he doing.
Yeah, well, mahalo so much for having me. I live on the Big Island. My family's been on the Big Island for 30 years. So I wrote the book Great Maui Land Grab. You can get it at greatmauilandgrabbook.com, greatmauilandgrabbook.com. And it's the tagline is What Caused the Maui Fire and Is Your Home Next? So this is the third edition because when LA happened, I was like, is your home next? This has 21 LA fire oddities that I added to this third edition of the book. And the reason why it's a good idea to have it just even for people who don't really understand the deep state and all the stuff that's going down is because it actually helps to explain who owns the government and why these attacks are happening on Maui, Lahaina, LA, South Carolina. That's not an
Yes,
accident. You don't have almost 200 fires just starting because of climate change.
yes.
Greatmauilandgrabbook.com is where people can get that. John Pelletier's in my book because he is the Maui police chief. So when this was going down with him being added to the case against Diddy, I was like, oh, yeah, and the Maui mayor actually said he needs to step down while this investigation is going through. Pelletier didn't want to step down. He says that this is unsubstantiated and he shouldn't be stepping down. But a lawyer actually said, no, the best thing to do is for him to step down because if he turns out to be a bad cop, which I'm going to share with you guys some things where it's going to be really hard to see that he's not. Um, but if he turns out to be a bad cop, any case he's worked on could get thrown out. So that's why a lawyer said for him he needs to be seated,
That's
step
right.
back a little bit.
And I think people need to understand what Michelle just said. This is why cops often cover for other cops. So they see you do something that's breaking the law. They see you make one mistake and they're like, no, look, we're just going to cover it. Because if we don't, every investigation you were involved in, every testimony that you gave as the arresting police officer is basically drugged back through court. It is an absolute nightmare for the judicial system. And it is often the number one listed reason why another cop or an entire police group will cover for a dirty cop. It's not necessarily that they agree with what that officer is doing or that they support it, but they're looking at the overall picture and they're like, oh, so I like to read people's comments. So I was looking at the Maui Now when they first brought this out, and I heard the cry of the people of the island basically saying, we don't care if he's innocent or guilty. At this point, we simply have lost faith. The good faith is done.
Mhm.
We want to be able to trust our police. It's a small island life. Until I was exposed to it, I had no idea. The coconut line where like everybody knows everything going on all the time. You guys, it's unbelievable. And now you have an entire island with a very small group supporting the police chief. I would say 95% of people are like, I don't care if you're guilty or not. I just simply want you gone.
Yeah.
There's too much, Michelle. So you said you had some videos. What did you dig up, girl? Because
Yeah.
I know you did.
So let me show you. First of all, you have to, I mean, obviously this is an investigation. Uh, the first thing that Pelletier did was he has receipts. He has receipts of his bank card, his credit card being used this incident happened with Diddy, and if you guys haven't read the report, I've read the report. It's absolutely horrendous.
Mhm.
Well, first what Diddy has allegedly done, but then what Pelletier did was he helped to cover up these really horrendous rapes, gang rapes, and the first one with the plaintiff, Ashley, she actually got out and escaped, and she was at a house, and Pelletier comes up and he's acting like this is alleged. All this is alleged because it's in the case. It hasn't been proven yet. But she said that he came up acting like the Contra Costa sheriff. And is that it right there?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
want me to read it for you? It says,
Yes.
okay, so I'll read some of it, folks. Neither Michelle or I need the heat. So what I can tell you is you can find it. It's 87 pages long.
Hmm.
It says plaintiff identified the person who arrived at the neighbor's home posing, in other words, not as, but he was posing as a Contra Costa sheriff was defendant Pelletier.
Hmm.
Plaintiff told defendant Pelletier, believing he was a sheriff from local police, that she had been violently blanked by defendant Diddy and others, and that she did not have her clothes, her phone, purse, car keys, or
Yeah.
cell phone. Defendant Pelletier, falsely posing as a Contra Costa sheriff, told plaintiff and the neighbor that they had received several noise complaints prior to the neighbor's call and instructed plaintiff to find a way to get home. The sheriff, defendant Pelletier, did not offer to take the plaintiff home, nor did he call for emergency services, which would include an ambulance, nor any officer to take plaintiff to the hospital, nor offer any help to plaintiff to recover her clothing or effects from defendant Shane's residence.
Yes. So that's just one part of the case. He's also in another part of the case with two other victims,
Yes.
and it's the same thing. He's covering things up, or allegedly, we have to say because it again hasn't been proven, covering things up. But what I'd love to share is just a little bit about his history and how he came to Maui, because he is the Maui police chief here on, well, not
He's
here on Maui, but go ahead.
he's he's also the coroner,
That's
correct?
correct. That's
Okay.
correct. Yes. So first, again, he starts off in Las Vegas. He was the commander for the Mandalay Bay shooting. So this Mandalay Bay shooting was supposedly one gunman that shot 60 people, leaving hundreds injured, shooting 1,000 rounds into 22 and into a group of 22,000 people.
Good
So
Lord.
yes, yes, and he was the incident commander for this incident, and they ended the investigation with no motive. They didn't include any motive of the gunman. The gunman supposedly shot himself.
Yes. Oh, when you said that, it clicked for me, Michelle. I just ran across this today. It's an older article that came out at the end of 2019. The FBI now claims that this ex postal worker did this mass shooting because he was angry at how the gambling, the casinos treated their high rollers. That is what they said his motive was. He was angry with the casino. So the 6 months leading up to the shooting, he went through $1.6 million, broke up with his girlfriend, estranged himself from his family, gambled a lot of that $1.6 million away, and then holed himself up in a room and committed mass murder. That's
Yeah,
that's their, that's their
that's
version
their
of why
story.
he did it. Right. It's ridiculous.
Yes, their story. Yes. So what's interesting is that when Pelletier was the incident commander and they finished the investigation, at that time they didn't have a motive. They didn't have a how he got the weapons up into the hotel room. There was a lot of questions unanswered. One being that people were running in all different directions, and the gunshots they said they were coming from different directions, but yet there was supposed to be one gunman. So a lot of things were left unanswered. Then Pelletier comes to Maui. Now, to get him to be able to be the police chief, they had to end. a law. There was a law that stated you had to be a resident of Maui for a year in order for you to be the police chief.
Yes.
Well, they canceled that. The legislative body got together and revoked that law. And I think that was about 6 months prior to him being named as a Maui police chief. He beat out 17 locals to be the Maui police chief. Then during the Maui Police Chief, I'm going to share this with you guys because there were 7 complaints. 7 complaints. He was in office for like 7 months. 7 complaints about him being in office, and one of them being the fact that in one of his first meetings, he literally told people that if they went against him, he would have them filleted, and in particularly the first person, so the first subordinate person, because he would make an example out of them. So let me show you guys this video, which is right here. Can you see this?
I can. It's
Okay.
perfect.
Let me make sure that the sound is on because yeah, I forgot to put the sound on. So this is what a reporter has shared about the toxic hostile work environment.
Maui Police Chief John Pelletier has been on the job for about 7 months now and has racked up 7 official work environment complaints. The employees who filed the grievances don't want to speak out because of fear of retaliation, but former ranking officers speaking on their behalf tell me one involves a woman who was cursed at during the meeting, and that working under Pelletier has led her and several others to seek help from psychiatrists and anxiety medication.
There was no leadership. It was a dictatorship.
Former Maui Police Department Lieutenant William Hankins had more than 30 years of service under his belt. Hankins worked under 5 different chiefs, but says he retired early because of Pelletier, alleging the recently installed head created what he calls a hostile and toxic work environment from the very first meeting.
Telling the command staff that if you don't agree with him and support him, he's going to fillet you.
People walking around on eggshells. Nobody wants to say anything.
After 28 years in the force, former Assistant Chief Clyde Holokai also retired early because of Pelletier's management. Holokai and Hankins agree the internal friction at MPD is unprecedented. For Holokai, he believes the stress of working under Pelletier even took a physical toll on him.
In about 2 months, I lost about 15 to 20 pounds working under him.
So I wanted to share that, but also there's been a lot of people, and here's what happened. Here's what's really, really sad is that there were 3 people that I know of that complained to the police commissioner, the Maui Police Commissioner. 2 were female officers and 1 was an employee, a female employee. And they took him and they complained to the police commission, which is the exact right thing you're supposed to do. And the police commissioners said that all 3 incidences were unsubstantiated. So someone has his back. Somebody has his back with this.
They do, Michelle. And I wanted to ask you if you had heard this. One of my longtime subscribers said, let's not forget P-Diddy's secretary. No, Pelletier's secretary.
Yeah.
Who had been at the Maui Police for 20 years was a pretty bad car accident shortly after he got there. And
Correct.
She is no longer with us, folks, on this earth.
Yes, correct. Yes, that is very true. And the car accident was really weird. It was really suspicious. She was helping her daughter. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and she was helping her daughter with a newspaper route that her daughter had. And there was some type of chase, like car chase, and I'll have to read the report again, but it was really weird. It was really weird. And then she hits a tree and she died in the car accident. But she was very loved, very beloved, very kind, aloha spirited woman. And she had been with the force for a very, very long time. And she'd only been with Pelletier for just, I think it was a few months before that happened.
I guarantee you, Michelle, as she is unboxing, as she is going through things, she had the potential to accidentally be exposed to toxic, dangerous materials. I think what people need to understand is the control these people have at the highest levels of government. So for Pelletier folks to move from Vegas to Maui, legislation had to be changed. Like entire laws had to be formed around this man to welcome him onto this island. And it was like they welcomed demonic spirits, because it is like there's nothing but a wake of unalived people in this man's past. And then I also heard that he was let go in Vegas. Kind of, you can't really find any information. It's like the mass shooting happened. Pelletier is no longer on the force, and he kind of floats. I don't know. I don't know what
Yeah.
happens in that 2-year period, but you know, it's like, where were you? How were you affording your bills? Like, what was going on? Anybody who is in a professional career knows that a 2.5-year break is like a coffin in your, I mean, a nail in your coffin for your
Yep.
career. I taught school. If there was a break for more than a year in my resume, principals were on the phone like, why wasn't she working for 3 years? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not normal for professionals to break in the middle of their career. And
That's true.
Pelletier did. I'd be very curious to know what he did during that 2.5-year period.
Yeah, and we did find information that he was fired, but when we looked into it more, they were saying, "Oh, he was fired so he could come to Maui." That's what the story that we were given when we looked into that. We have to remember that this man, and I'll just show you guys this picture because he did block the roads in Maui,
Yes, he
and
did.
let's see, that's that. That's this one right here. So critical roadblocks during the fire. And here's the thing that he said. At first he denied it. But
Yep.
there was so many people coming forward saying that there were roadblocks that he had to say that, okay, yes, there were. And he said the reason why he blocked the roads is because of telephone poles. But if you look at these pictures, there's another one somewhere down here. Well, maybe it's not. But there was another one that showed the telephone poles behind the cop cars. Like there was no telephone poles that were down.
Right. And the
So,
electricity was already cut. They tried that one too,
correct,
remember, in their report.
correct.
Because I did a video breaking down the first report. I'm like, folks, this doesn't make sense because the power, it says here, power was cut at this time. The
That's
roadblocks were
right.
multiple hours later. And what is their excuse? Oh, telephone and electrical wires. We didn't want anybody to be hurt. You put them back in the fire to die. I mean, just admit it. You know, we know what you did.
Yep,
Most of us do, you know.
that's correct. And then what happened also is that there was so this is the third edition of my book, Great Maui Land Grab. Again, you can get it at greatmauilandgrabbook.com.
Look,
The second edition, I had to do a second edition because it went from 21 Maui fire oddities, anomalies to 27. And part of the anomalies in that was the mishandling of human remains, which is so devastating to people who are left, that knowing that their ohana, their bodies are not being taken care of properly and with respect. So this one gentleman, his name is his name is escaping me actually. It's actually right here. Let me just show. I'm just going to show you guys this. But before I do, I want to tell you guys. Right after this interview, about a couple days after this interview, the Maui coroner's office got an award for great service to the community. And it was right after the mishandling of human remains story broke. So I think they were trying to do PR to
yes.
help them. And you guys have to understand, for those of you who Maui's really small, and the coroner, there was no coroner. The coroner's the Maui police chief. And so, in fact, the legislative body, so the fire happened in August. Then in December, the legislative body got together and said that there was conflict of interest to have the Maui police chief be the coroner. So they're trying to change that, but it actually died. That bill died. So it's still the Maui police chief, which means he's the one that signs the death certificates. He's the one that says, yes, this person died because
Yep.
of this. And you have to understand that the Maui fire, the death toll went from 115 and it
Yep. It
dropped
dropped.
to
Never.
97.
That's never happened in the history of disasters, folks. It doesn't. They're giving you, it always goes up. Like there's no reason. And you're right. So I want everybody, I did this video earlier, but I want everybody to hear him talking about, okay, so this is like a day after the fire, and he's fussing at the press for going into the fire scene, which we all now know they were trying to cover up what actually happened by removing the evidence, but he uses the bodies and them walking on the bodies as reason for them not to go in there.
It's through a fire that melted metal.
Oh, yeah.
You have to do rapid DNA to identify them. Every one of these 89 are John and Jane Does. And so when you are asking us, and we know we've got to get, and I love the way our House representative, how she said it. She was so eloquent. We know we've got to go quick, but we got to do it right. So when we pick up the remains and they fall apart, and so when you have 200 people running through the scene yesterday,
We can't hear it, Samantha. It just went
Oh.
somehow. Something happened. We heard it from the beginning and then something happened with the audio.
Oh,
But
sorry. Yeah. So
yeah,
basically what he's saying is that some of you, 200 people, ran across remains, destroying them. And, you know, I hear him say stuff like that, Michelle, and you can hear the little waver in his voice, like he's truly concerned. And I'm thinking,
he's good.
aren't you the same man that mixed up people and tagged
That's
them
right.
wrong, you know, and didn't apologize?
Yes, I'm looking up his name so I get his name. Grayson Ibarra. Grayson Ibarra has had his he worked for the Maui Police Department for 12 years, and his job was to pick up human remains. And he is a very kind, respectful man, and he was super disturbed that they were not being respectedly extracted, these human remains. And here's the thing, you guys, there was an acting captain, and the acting captain, the first day, the acting captain said that he picked up 50 bodies, 50. So there's supposed to be a total of 103 throughout the whole month of removal of extracting human remains. Plus, this is really disturbing. The acting captain slash this comes, I believe, came from the police chief, was the fact that, but I don't know that for sure, but they were allowing recruits to pick up human remains, people who had no experience, zero experience in the police work at all, and they're picking up human remains. And this is what Grayson Ibarra was so appalled about. He actually gave, because they weren't contacting him. They weren't contacting Grayson to pick up all of the human remains. And he actually gave them a whole manual and said, this is how you deal with recovering of human remains. He gave that to them and they completely ignored it. You guys, this part's really disturbing. They were picking up human remains and putting them together in baggies, together, not in separate baggies. You're supposed to put them in separate baggies, and you're supposed to do a GPS right when you find that body, so they know exactly where it was at. Some of the GPS wasn't done until the body was moved to up to 2 to 3 times. Then they did a GPS. So this means that people were, this one family had their mother's remains that were 2 blocks from her house. And they're like, how did she get there? She didn't have a car. If fire was going on. Then there was another man, and this is so sad, but they were contacted because part of his remains are in a group baggie and they can't separate them. So this information is in the Maui Police Department's own report. They've actually reported it themselves. So Grayson took the Maui police chief to, again, the Maui police commissioners and complained about this, and he got yelled at. He was actually yelled at. So yes, so I do have that up and available. But yeah, this is so disturbing. Oh, and this other part, the award. This was the award that was given.
Despite not having proper training. Right away, you spoke up.
Yes.
Ibarra says he provided MPD leadership with a copy of Maui County's mass fatality operations plan and a field guide that explained step by step what needed to be done.
And what was the response to that?
I don't think the problem was understood.
I think he's being really nice about that.
Me
I think,
too.
he says the problem wasn't understood. I think he's being really nice. So check this out. This is so interesting. So Hawaii News Now gets gets the Maui Police Department says it has lodged a complaint with the Federal Communications Commission over reports of Hawaii News Now investigates about the mishandling of human remains after the Lahaina fire. So they're just reporting. They're just reporting. That's what they do. And now they're sticking by their story. And now the Maui Police Department says is making a complaint. Oh, you guys reported about this, and we didn't really want you to report about it, so let's make a complaint about you. So
Wow.
isn't that is so disgusting, these people. And here is this is the police commissioner that is yelling, and Ibarra's standing right here. The Maui police chief is sitting right next to him, and this guy is literally yelling, and I'll press play in a moment for you guys. And he's literally saying, why are you bringing this up? You know, we're just trying to move on. We're just trying to move on. And I'm like, this man mishandled your human remains. But here's what he says.
They never follow protocol. Who has a protocol? 100 people dying and losing a city. What? Is there a list where we go, okay, my town got burned, everybody died, what we gonna do? Follow this protocol. Make sure you get a body bag. Don't use a plastic bag.
There's protocol.
I'm so sorry. I have to.
There is. There's also training and events that are conducted to make sure we do it right.
But the people who died, that's your
So their remains are treated without desecration.
I'm so sorry.
Integrity.
I hear you.
That you're saying you do this for the community. You're saying that everybody you talk to, Allison, that they thank you for the job you're doing. But have you guys sat in their seats, put on their shoes? I think it's built on foundation for my house yet.
Okay. Take more.
So he goes off. This is a commission. This is the Maui County Police Commission. And this man, and what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to be able to go to the police commission and make your complaint. And he gets yelled at, and like he's doing something wrong by bringing up the fact that the Maui police chief and the police department totally mishandled human remains, and he's getting yelled at for it.
No, you know what I noticed? I noticed that the entire table is used to kowtowing to this gentleman. He's obviously a very emotionally stunted human who can't discuss anything. The lady walks around the table and rubs his shoulder like he's a 2-year-old, which is completely inappropriate unless that's your husband. And what I noticed, Michelle, was that what happened is he's yelling about strategies that everybody should know. So I've got 2 sons in the military. You know, they're in the middle of a war zone. Guess what the military does? There's a strategy and a procedure for legitimately everything. Like everything. I have a medic as a son for the military, and he's like, Mom, you know, they train us as if bombs are dropping around us. You know, we still have a procedure to follow, and we practice it in every scenario so that things are done properly and people aren't injured. You know what I'm saying? Like he knows how to treat remains in the middle of a war. The remains are done differently than if it's a peaceful, accidental passing or if it's a training exercise. I mean, that is wow. So that's part of the problem. What's going on with Maui is that you got over emotional grown adults acting like children. I mean, that was like a 2-year-old's outburst. It's not my fault, you know?
Yeah. I've never seen anything like it in a situation like that. And it was actually a civilian that came up after. His name is Bruce Douglas. Bruce had a ton of, he's the one that studied the weather for 15 years on Maui. He's the reason why the first chapter about all the weird things, the weird weather that happened in Maui happened. It was because thanks to Bruce Douglas studying the weather and giving us satellite images around what happened the day before and the day of the fire. But he stands up and it's like, I can't believe that this just happened at this police commissioner, that Ibarra is getting reprimanded and yelled at. And he was absolutely in the correct. And you're right. I mean, when you go to a place like that, you're already nervous, you know, to speak up. And now you're getting yelled at like you're doing something wrong. So it was, they're definitely trying to save Pelletier for sure, of, you know, saving grace. And now there are some people that are sticking up for him, but a lot of people, they want him gone. So, and I agree with that 100%.
I do too, Michelle. I think what I'm hearing as I'm listening to people discuss this is that we all know one of 2 things are fixing to happen. They're going to buckle down, surround Pelletier and protect him, or Like I told you on the phone the other day, I in my mind envision Pelletier as a puppet, and there's a string right here, and this is what Sam's saying. A big pair of scissors, and this is fixing to happen. You know? And Pelletier's gonna accidentally have an accident. And that's the feeling I get. Because guys, please listen to me when I tell you this. Like attracts like in life. And when you make decisions of the type that Pelletier has obviously, from his own record, made time and time again, what happens is not good. You cannot avoid the consequences to your actions, either here or in the afterlife. And Pelletier has systematically aligned himself with dishonorable and dangerous situations time and time again. Nobody can trust him. And I think when it comes to positions of power, sheriff, coroner, especially when you're both, judges, you know what I'm saying? Child service people, they should be above reproach in the sense that you can trust them wholeheartedly. And Michelle, I can't imagine anyone that's listened to you and I for the last 45 minutes would think that this is a trustworthy person.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So, yeah, when I saw that, I mean, it was a shock to see him in the Diddy case, but I'm like, okay, we got the Mandalay Bay, we got the Diddy case, we got the Maui fire. Like this man, he needs to be removed from power. Absolutely. To protect the people. Because, and what's great about all of this is that you can't keep truth hidden forever. It's like I've said many times, you try to hold water in your hands and it keeps spilling out. It's not going to stay hidden. So this is only just, I think, just the start of what the truth that's unfolding is coming out. And I love your channel that shares so much truth. And it was great to meet you when you were here on Maui.
Yeah, you were amazing. I told everybody, I was like, I keep telling you guys, go join her channel. Her information is so well put together. And it's not just that, is that you're not a talker, you're a doer. So she is always putting together like, hey, here's the legislation coming up for voting. You know, here's what you can do about it. You have to tell people how to fix the problem. I am going to have to go. My soldiers just walked back into the door. I've got a son deploying in a week and a half, 2 weeks. I've got my youngest soldier who's still in boot camp. Well, not boot camp. He's in AIT. Sorry. And he's in for the weekend. So this mom has to go get her some hugs. But thank you so much, Michelle, for being with me, for sharing this. Please put this up on your channel. Everybody on my channel, please go over to Blossom Inner Wellness. Visit Michelle, get her book. Show them your book one more time.
So this is Great Maui Land Grab. It's the 3rd edition with 21 LA fire oddities. There is a small section of South Carolina in there as well. You can get it at greatmauilandgrabbook.com, Great Maui Land Grab Book. If you put truth in the coupon code, you can get 10% off. So greatmauilandgrabbook.com. And then my YouTube channel is Blossom Inner, INNER, Inner Wellness. And I did get shadow banned for a long time. So any new subscribers is greatly appreciated. And thank you so much, Samantha, for having me.
You too. Love you, girl. Aloha. I will keep in touch with you. We'll do this again in a few weeks as more information comes out.
Awesome. Aloha, everyone. Mahalo.
Aloha. Bye-bye.